Welcome to the City Manager's Report. The City Manager's Report, a look at city updates and municipal news, and a preview of the next Oshkosh Common Council meeting agenda. Your hosts, Emily Springstrow of Oshkosh Media and City Manager Mark Roloff.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us on GovTV for your City Manager's Report, your source for all of the local news and updates happening right here in your city, as well as a preview of the upcoming City Council meeting agenda. I'm your host, Emily Springstrow, joined as always by your City Manager, Mark Roloff. So, Mark, as always, welcome and thanks for joining us.
Great to be here, Emily.
So, Mark, we're going to go ahead and dive into our hot topics for the first half of today's show. We'll take a little break and then return with a review of the council meeting agenda for Tuesday, November 22nd, 2016. Already November 22nd, I can't believe it. It's just crazy.
Time's flying.
So getting into the first half topics that we had decided on here, Mark. First one being election recap. We are kind of still recovering from this huge election that happened, and the Clerk's Department did a wonderful job with the early absentee ballots.
There were a lot of early voting that was done. It was the first week. It was done for 3 weeks. First week right here at City Hall, and the last 2 weeks at the Convention Center. We had a 20% increase in early voting over the 2012 election. Mm-hmm. Back in 2012, we had 6,000 people come in and vote early, and this year, 7,200. So pretty sizable increase, and I think the extra week helped for that.
Oh, definitely.
We got some great poll workers that were so dedicated and coming in early. That was something that they didn't have to do in the past. But not only did they come in and help us with that, but they put things in order so that those votes we didn't fall behind when those votes had to get counted. They really were diligent about getting them input during the day of the election so that the reporting was very prompt. We no longer report through the city clerk's office. The polling places go directly to the county, so the results are getting out a lot quicker too. And I know everybody's always, what are the turnouts in Oshkosh? And in the past, we were pretty slow. Now we're on the front end of it and making the reporting just so much quicker, so we're very happy about that.
Yes, a big national election, but also the Oshkosh area, the return of results is much appreciated, I know that. Next election we're looking at, Mark, looking at February, if there is a primary.
Right, if there's a primary needed for municipal elections, that would be in February, February 28th to be exact, and then the general election would be on Tuesday, April 4th. That would be for council and mayor seats, along with anything else that might come up. But we know those are the ones we're responsible for, so we'll have those if we'll certainly have something in April, but if we need the primary, we'll do that in February.
Excellent. Well, great recap. It's always kind of nice to take a breather after an election and look forward to the next one. So next item we want to talk about, which is kind of a lot of buzz right now on social media, a lot of information out there, that's the rental registry. Now this program's been talked about a lot, Mark. Maybe you can kind of just give us a little bit of a recap of where we're at right now.
Sure. There's a lot of information going back and forth, and certainly you can respect people's right to disagree on a topic or anything, but we've had presented to council and they approved this rental inspection program because they feel it's necessary to protect not only health and safety, which is a primary concern, but also property values that can drag down the price and the values of single-family homes in some of our older areas. But we're required by law to do it on a citywide basis. That's a choice that the state made, not us. So what I did was I put together an op-ed piece that was in the Oshkosh Northwestern, and it's getting picked up by other media outlets. We're going to have it on our Facebook and page and whatnot so that people can see it. And what we want to do is just basically clear the air so people understand what it's about and what it's not about.
So what kind of things did you cover in that piece in case someone hasn't read it yet?
Well, there are some misunderstandings. There's some concern about people having their property searched. The program specifically talks about we will only go in if we receive approval from the property owner.
It's entirely voluntary.
The tenants themselves. Mm-hmm. The tenants want an inspection done. That's when we'll do the inspection. So that's very important. A lot of concern about people's Fourth Amendment rights to search and seizure. That's nothing of the sort. We have a specific list of what things we're going to look for. Mm-hmm. Those are the only things we're going to be looking for. We're going to bypass other things because they're not of concern to us. But we want to make sure that people understand that we're looking for health and safety issues. We're not looking for your cleanliness habits or anything like that. We're not the clean police. We're the code enforcers, and that's something that's very fundamental to local government to ensure health and safety.
Definitely. So make sure you keep an eye on our Facebook page. We'll be posting that op-ed piece very soon. And also the Oshkosh Community Development Department has a Facebook page that you'll be seeing as well. Mark, one other question that people also have, which is a very big one, is the cost. What's the cost associated with an inspection?
Well, you really, what I like to do is take down to the average, because it's going to be $100 per trip. If we're doing multifamily area, that trip is still $100, and then it's $45 per unit. And we're only inspecting every 5 years. So over a 5-year period, it amounts to no more than $2.42 a month. And if the landlord believes that they need to pass that on, that's the only cost. And I'd say that's pretty inexpensive,
easily absorbed, yeah,
easily absorbed for something that's only $2.42. So we certainly want to make people aware of that, because this talk about raising rent, if they're raising rent $2.42, then you can say it's on us. But if they're raising it $5, it doesn't have anything to do with this program. It has something to do with other costs. And there's costs of doing businesses. Restaurants pay for inspections. That's a cost of doing business. And this is really following a similar logic, that businesses that are for profit, that are renting out housing, require inspections, just like restaurants require it for health and safety as well.
Excellent. Well, thanks for clearing that up, Mark. And again, I encourage people to check out the city's communication platforms, whether it be the website or Facebook pages. We'll be putting out a lot of information to help clear up those misunderstandings. Next thing that we want to talk about, although I know we don't like to talk about them very much, is lake flies, Mark, and that is Operation Lake Fly. We've talked briefly about it on the show before. This community art project, which is really cool, and they're kind of starting to hit the ground running, trying to get some business sponsors and get this project going.
It's very similar to what you've seen in other areas. Sturgeon Bay did their sturgeon, and sturgeon aren't the prettiest fish either. And
They're not.
And lake flies are not the prettiest bugs either, although I question any bug that's pretty. But the whole Operation Lake Fly is to really talk about community pride. And what the group did with a variety of sponsors, a community foundation, UW Oshkosh, the Convention Bureau, We a Trust, which is insurance company that is sponsored by the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, a lot of great partners, a technical college, to basically do a promotion where people can decorate lake flies, much like what we did with the Lions a few years back, and the Nutcrackers. So we've done a few of those. So this is the base model, and people are encouraged to dress it up and put a theme on it or do anything they want. We're still looking for business sponsors who want to do these things, and hopefully get these out to show them off to the public. And it's a public art project that people can take some enjoyment out of, even if it's in jest a little bit.
It's a really cool idea, just embracing the lake fly. And there is a hatching event that will be planned for around Mother's Day, when the lake flies actually hatch, and a good chance to take a look at what the artists have come up with the different designs and everything. So make sure you just search the Operation Lake Fly online. You can find all the information on their Facebook page or on the city website. And moving on to our next item, Mark, that's Thanksgiving updates. Thanksgiving's already next week, and there's just a few, usual city updates that we want to make sure that our residents are aware of. First one being Go Transit.
Sure. I mean,
service.
No service on Thanksgiving Day, so that's very typical. And of course, garbage and recycling is moved back one day. So if you get collected on Thursday, like me, you'll do it on Friday, and then anybody on Friday would be on Saturday.
Excellent. So very easy to remember. And then, of course, the yard waste drop-off site will be closed, which leads us into our next little update for this little seasonal portion of our show, and that's leaf collection. The leaf collection is ending this week, so if you're watching this, it's probably pretty much done here, and they're going to be looking out for some of the stragglers that are left over too.
Really, it's just a matter of, if anybody inadvertently left it out,
Right.
or, if they have a lot of leaves and they're planning to rake them up later. If they're out there by the terrace, we'll get them. If not, then we have to convert all of our leaf trucks over to snowplow trucks. Those are the last trucks that get converted. So all of our other trucks are being converted right now. The leaf trucks we don't start doing until next week. So as we start converting them, there'll be one fewer and one fewer. So that's why we can't do a scheduled leaf collection. You may see them out there to do some rough cleanup, but don't count on it. But if we get out there, we're happy to do it. And then, of course, if you can't, we will be doing the collection the week of December 5th through 9th. And you can put them in bags, but the biodegradable bags, and you can have them ready, and we'll take them that way. But we do have to shut the trucks down so that we can start doing snow removal. That's just the reality of
another thing we don't like to talk about.
Another thing we don't want to talk about, but it's absolutely necessary. So yeah, if you can just plan not to leave your leaves out, and we'll take what we can see, because once the snow flies, we are out of business.
That's our main concern once the snow starts flying, which is actually, I think we're supposed to get a little bit this weekend. Probably won't stick though. So.
Yeah, so we'll probably, the trucks will be working a little bit next week.
Yes, so that's going to wrap up our updates for the first half of the show. Now it's that time of the show where viewers have the opportunity to ask their city manager anything they want about things that are going on right here in Oshkosh relating to projects or different news and updates. So let's take a look at what the question mark segment is about this week. All right, Mark, the question this week is, why can't the holiday parade be after Thanksgiving?
Okay, well, first of all, it's great that we're getting these on Twitter. We've gotten so many more questions ever since we opened it up on Twitter.
Definitely.
So thank you for doing that. The holiday parade is actually sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce. So first off, the Chamber of Commerce makes the decision on when the holiday parade is going to be. But I think a lot of it has to do is, the Chamber does do it for the downtown businesses. And so the idea is to encourage people to shop downtown and shop early. And of course, so the earlier the better. It stretches out the holiday season, the holiday shopping season. And we do a lot of things associated with the Whoville holiday. So we do a lot of promotions with that. And we want to get it done so people get used to going downtown for shopping, because of course Small Business Saturday is November 26th, so we want to have it done by then. And then there's also the practical side, which I really think when push comes to shove, that's really what I think the Chamber is thinking about when they do this. To get people in the parade, they have to be available to be in the parade. And once you get after Thanksgiving, you're doing your own holiday shopping. The kids are in zillions of Christmas pageants and different things. And
the weather might not always cooperate.
And the weather is, we're going to be, weather looks great for tonight when we are having the parade, and we're going to be taping the parade, and then the next day the weather goes downhill. We want to try to avoid those things. I've been at plenty of the holiday parades where I've been bundled up where I can barely see out of my parka. This won't be one of those days, and I'll be very happy for that. But it's all about making sure that we're okay with Christmas holiday shopping and just people's schedules.
Yes, and you can find information about the holiday parade on the Chamber's website. It is their event. It is tonight, so by the time most people watch this, it will be over, but we will be covering it. So you will watch that on Life TV, not Gov TV. We're going to be covering it thanks to the Friends of OCM. They'll be bringing that coverage. So take a look at our website, oshkoshmedia.org, for the replay, or check out our YouTube channel. It'll also be airing on Life TV as well, like I said. So we're looking forward to getting out there and covering it. I know I'm very happy about the nice weather, as I'll be sitting there throughout the whole thing. So we cannot wait for the Whoville holiday parade. So that question came from Twitter, as Mark said. So thank you very much for the Twitter user that sent that in. If you have a question for Mark, feel free to send it to us on Twitter or on Facebook. You can also email it to us at questionmark@ci.oshkosh.wi.us. So we're going to take a little break here on CMR, and when we come back, we'll dive into the City Council meeting agenda for this Tuesday, November 22nd. We'll be right back on City Manager's Report.
Deck the Halls, a holiday experience at the Oshkosh Public Museum. See the historic Sawyer home decorated in holiday splendor. The life-size Christmas village will delight with festive holiday decor and an incredible wooden toy circus. Deck the Halls at the Oshkosh Public Museum, a holiday experience.
It is sad but true that for years, some people have been using storm drains to dispose of their wastes. Storm sewers do not treat or clean up anything passing through them. Everything that enters a storm drainage system is eventually discharged in exactly the same form as it entered. These wastes can kill plants and destroy breeding areas. Never pour or dump anything down any storm drain.
Hello again, everyone, and thank you for joining us on your City Manager's Report. We're in the second half of the show now, so we're going to go ahead and dive into the City Council meeting agenda for Tuesday, November 22nd, 2016. So, Mark, first thing that we want to talk about on this agenda or highlight is the presentation that's going to be taking place before the meeting really gets going from Karen Beefus about the Oshkosh Hub presentation. So, give us a little bit of an idea of what exactly is the Oshkosh Hub.
Sure, it's a group of social service agencies and providers that they really want to be a connecting point for people in poverty and to make available the range of social services that may be available that crossover between a lot of agencies. Kind of a one-stop shop, but really to address the fundamental issues that have to do with somebody's underlying issues of poverty. So Karen has taken over, Karen Beefus has taken over as the director of the Hub, and she just wants to educate people on that. So I'm just giving you a real brief overview, and we're showing the Hub website right now, but it's really to make people aware that what services are available and also how important it is for us to address these types of issues in our community.
Kind of being proactive about it and preventative with the poverty issue. So it's not just a long list of, food pantries and things like that. There's a lot of great services on there to help you deal with anything you might be facing with poverty. So
yeah, it's understanding there's so many different complex things that overlay poverty and trying to address all of the issues rather than just isolated issues at one time.
Exactly. It's great to see all those services kind of collaborating together to help that. Yeah. Next item we have under the consent agenda, Mark, is to approve engineering services agreement for Johnson Avenue Watershed Stormwater Management Plan. That's about $126,000, and we talk a lot about stormwater. I've never heard of this watershed.
Well, as I've said before, we have 120 different watersheds in the city, and some are very large, and some are very small. This one's actually bigger than you think, but it's kind of out of the way, but every area is important. Johnson Avenue is Johnson Avenue, which actually drains into Lake Winnebago on the south side of town. But it fans out from that area. Think of it like a big funnel, and it funnels through that general area of Johnson Avenue. But it goes all the way back to south of the airport and all the way out to Highway 41 and 26. And that's where the water begins to start flowing towards the lake. So it's a huge area. And as that area is proposed to be developed in the future, we need to make sure that we accommodate stormwater management there. So the idea is to create what's called a stormwater management plan, and then identify what may be necessary now or in the future, so that when development occurs, that it doesn't create flooding problems down the road.
Wonderful. Well, more to come on that. We'll look forward to some discussion in the council meeting about that. Next item we want to talk about, Mark, is Resolution 16-521. That's award bid to EGI Mechanical for a 40-ton chiller replacement for the convention center. It's a pretty penny there, and this is kind of just continuing the updates at the convention center.
Correct. The convention center, this is one of those improvements that was decided not to be done back in 2009, and it's reached the end of its life. I mean, it probably should have been done back in 2009, but we held on to it for a few more years to save costs, but the maintenance costs in this are just becoming too excessive. So again, we have to keep the convention center in good working condition so that people will want to go there. If you have things like chillers that don't work, it's going to be awfully miserable in the summer.
Oh yes, it definitely will. Under that, we've got a lot of special events, Mark. As a lot of times, we've got a lot of special events to approve. One of those being the Oshkosh Corporation utilizing city streets for their 100th anniversary parade on July 15th.
Oshkosh Corporation, they are ready to celebrate their 100th anniversary, and they've asked us if we could use a portion of city streets to hold a parade pretty much on the south end of town near some of their facilities, but we're more than happy to help accommodate them. We think it's a great way to celebrate. A Fortune 500 company that's right here in Oshkosh has a great economic impact, and so we're happy to work with them, and they are so organized. We're very pleased with what they've been doing, and so we appreciate that, and that's what it's all about. We talk in advance, and these types of special events can go off without a hitch because of all this great advanced planning that we're doing.
Great relationship with Oshkosh Corp. And as much as we like to dream about July and how warm it'll be then, there are other events on the agenda approval for coming up pretty soon here. One being December 3rd, and that is the Race for the Light Walk and Run. Yeah,
I know this was discussed on some other shows. Yes. on Life TV, but Christine Ann Domestic Abuse Center has their annual Race for the Light, December 3rd at 4:30. It's going to start at the Boys and Girls Club. There's more details online, but we like to mention it because it's one of those events that it helps a local social service agency, and it's great cause and a lot of fun and very family friendly.
Yes, a great way to enjoy the celebration of lights too, so I highly recommend you take advantage of it. And then Mark, after these special events, we are going to move into item number 22, and that is approval of the 2017 Business Improvement District Operating Plan and Budget. And this actually has a little bit regarding the downtown parking study.
Correct. A couple meetings ago, the council had recommended or voted against doing anything with respect to paid on-street parking. And certainly understand why the council did it, even though staff had recommended otherwise. But the bid board was also, the Business Improvement District Board was also in favor of that, and they needed to go back to their board and decide how their budget and plan are going to be put together for 2017, because council has to approve that without any amendments. So they needed to modify their operating plan. Even though they disagree with that, they want to move forward, and so we're really going to focus on education, particularly getting businesses to recognize that it's in their best interest to get their employees to not park on the street and not park in the spaces closest to the businesses. Those are for the customers and everything, and that's been overlooked, and we really need to push that issue so that we don't have that problem in the future. So a lot of education, simplifying some of the signage so that people understand it better, particularly the customers. We really need to have that customer focus. The bid board recognizes that, and I think that's why they wanted to do what they did. But with some recognition that council is not real thrilled about the paid on-street parking, we have to look for some alternatives.
Wonderful. So yeah, I get that the education is key in this aspect. So we'll look forward to some really good discussion in the meeting on that. And then next item that we want to talk about, Mark, item number 24, and that's receive and file a petition for direct legislation to reduce the forfeiture for possession of marijuana to $25. Give us a little background on this one.
Well, this is a local group that put together a petition to what people commonly refer to as decriminalizing it. So decriminalizing it is making a lesser fine. It's currently $125. This group was proposing to drop it to $25. They got a lot of signatures. The city clerk was able to verify 4,000, but the 4,000 are broken into 4 different worded petitions. We're not arguing that issue. We certainly understand what their intent was, but some people could argue that's a technicality. One of the major problems with it is that it proposes to repeal existing legislation because we already have an ordinance online. You cannot use a direct vote petition to repeal something in our city code. So technically it doesn't meet the requirements under state statute. So the city attorney cannot verify that this is something that can be put on the ballot. So all we're doing is reporting it to council. They can receive and file it. If they choose that they want to do something about it, they could direct staff to prepare an ordinance. That's up to council. But with this petition, because it doesn't meet all the legal requirements, we just can't bring it forth. So we're just going to receive and file it. Certainly there are a lot of people who express their opinion on that, and council can take that into consideration if they choose to either adopt an ordinance on their own or propose some legislation that they can put on the ballot rather than for advisory purposes or something, rather than this petition, which would have a lot of legal problems with it.
So that's kind of where it's going to stand then. There really isn't much as far as what's next. It's kind of, this is status quo for what they'll be doing.
Yeah, the only thing next is council could direct to do an ordinance themselves.
Right.
But this normally, if it was done correctly, it would say force the council to vote on it. They really can't vote on it because it doesn't match up with what the direct legislation ordinance requires.
Interesting. Wonderful. Okay. Well then, of course, we want to make sure we have enough time for these 4 items on the agenda, and that is the ever-famous city budget, and we're going to be adopting it and approving the tax levy, tax rates, and CIP, capital improvement plan.
A lot of culmination of a lot of work.
Yes.
We've had 6 different work sessions with the council over the last several months, which included 2 all-day meetings with departments to go over their budgets and pour over them and ask tons of questions. You know, we have some restrictions, and then we have some, challenges ahead of us. The restriction is that because of something that's called expenditure restraint, our budget cannot exceed an increase of 1.6%. So we've had to make a lot of changes to accommodate that without reducing any staffing or services. Some of the things we've done is we've modified our employee health insurance to increase deductibles, which helps lower our costs on health insurance. That's going to help a great deal. Right now, we're budgeting fewer costs for, say, utilities, specifically fuel, those type of commodities. That's very risky because the price of gas, as we all know, goes up and down, so we have to be careful about that. But unfortunately, because of some reductions in revenues, specifically ambulance revenues, because our reimbursements that we get for Medicare and Medicaid still are essentially frozen for a number of years now. Medicare and Medicaid is roughly half of our ambulance calls, more than half of our ambulance calls. So we only get reimbursed a fixed amount, and that amount hasn't changed. As our costs have gone up, the revenue hasn't. So we're kind of stuck with expecting less and less revenue for that. As a result of that, the only resource we have to backfill that revenue source is our property tax. So the property tax, as it stands before the council, is 5.87%. That's the highest increase we've had since I've been here. I'm certainly concerned about it. I know the council's absolutely concerned about it. And they're going to look at ways to perhaps address that issue, but they recognize that to do so may result in some reduction of services in that, and they don't want to do that either. So that's kind of that dilemma that they're always in. You know, increase taxes, cut services, how do we balance those things out? So we're going to be working on that.
So that kind of explains the difference between the levy and the tax rates. And then, of course, we wanted to kind of look at one of the positive things is there is no reduction in staffing and no loss of revenue.
Right. And if the council does want to reduce the tax rate, they can consider amendments. To add, you can't exceed the 1.6%, so we'll work on that, and hopefully we'll have a budget that I don't think any budget's ever perfect, but try to recognize our limitations, yet our requirements and our desire to provide necessary services for the health and safety of our residents.
Yes, so it's clear that a lot of work went into this, a lot of meetings, and that's all going to come together at this meeting. So we look forward to coming to the close of the budget season and finishing that up. Last item we want to talk about under City Manager announcements and statements, Mark, is the North Park Neighborhood Association recognition. Tell us about that.
Another new neighborhood association has been formed. It's on the north side. It's pretty much from the corner of Snell and Jackson Street. It goes east and north. It's a residential area. It's just west of the county park. They've called themselves North Park, I'm sure, because of their proximity to the county park. We're excited to have somebody on the farther north side create an association. So we're happy to work with them. Our planning staff, as well as other staff throughout the city, will work to help them get their sea legs and get moving forward and starting to do some great things to engage the neighborhood and help us help them improve their neighborhood overall.
Wonderful. What a positive item. It's great to end on a positive note, and unfortunately we are all out of time, Mark, so I have to thank you so much for joining us today on CMR.
Oh, happy to do it.
Again, the City Council meeting is this Tuesday, November 22nd at 6 p.m. You can watch it live on GovTV and on our website at oshkoshmedia.org, or you can listen to it on 101.9 Oshkosh FM, which is also online and on the TuneIn Radio app for mobile devices. Make sure you like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter for your community and government programming and updates, or check out our YouTube channel for government meeting replays and past episodes of your favorite programs. Don't forget, if you do have a question for City Manager Mark Roloff, you can send it to us on Twitter at City of Oshkosh, send it to us on Facebook at Oshkosh Media, or email it to us at questionmark@ci.oshkosh.wi.us. As always, thank you so very much for joining us on City Manager's Report, and we'll see you next time.